know people. That's all I need to do. I need to know people. I don't do everything. I know. And that's what you pay for. Yeah. So I also have contacts now in Virginia, just in case, you know. You know? So, I know. So the office cop that was sitting away followed him and said, what are you doing? Yeah. Yep, I know. I told him, and I tried to connect his office. That would be the energy right there. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad it all turned out okay. It's a get lights.
Yes, it is. Thank you all for coming. If I could have everyone take your seats, we're going to get started. So thank you for coming to the Indian Valley Chamber of Commerce Fall Forum. My name is Leslie Wheeling, and I am an organizational development leader, leadership development facilitator, and executive coach. And currently, I have the pleasure of serving as the president of the board for the Indian Valley Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber started these biannual forums a couple years ago to facilitate learning from the businesses and highlight some of the great successes in our region. And they have become my favorite events, combining learning and networking with great people. I want to take a moment to give a special thanks to Landis, Huntsberger, Gingrich, and Week for sponsoring today's event, and to Sellersville Theater in Washington House for the beautiful location and the recording that will be on YouTube, our YouTube channel later, if you would like to refer back to anything, or share it with other people that weren't able to attend today. Today we have 4 panelists. We have Charlotte Huntsberger, who's partner at Landis, Huntsberger, Gingrich, and Week. We have Elaine Brick, the proprietor of Washington House and Sellersville Theater. Sally Durstein, president of the Delaware Valley Family Business Center, and Joanna Berge Schisler, president of Berge's Inc. Berge Chevrolet. And Cadillac, thank you. So October is National Women's Small Business Month. And in honor of that, I wanted to share a few facts that I learned recently. 42% of all businesses in the US are owned by women. Women-owned businesses employ over 9.4 million people. Women are 3 percentage points more likely to start a business than a man. And during the startup phase, women-led companies use 2/3 less capital. Millennial women are actually 22% more likely to be the founder of a startup than their baby boomer counterparts. And I think that Gen Z is probably going to continue that trend. Our region is no different than these facts, and there are many impactful women-owned businesses right here in the Indian Valley. To honor that, today's forum is titled The Journey of Successful Women. We're going to hear from 4 women business owners on some of the most common questions and topics, and if there's time at the end, we'll open the floor to questions from the attendees as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll start with you, Charlotte, and we'll just go down the line, and if I could have you each just introduce yourself, your background, and your business.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here with all of you today, and thank you for putting this event on so we can take a look at some of the unique ways that women in business have grown and impact society. My name is Charlotte Huntsberger, and just in full disclosure, I am married to Steve Huntsberger. So, I actually did not start out going straight to law school. I worked in compliance at Univest for a number of years before going back to school and finishing my legal degree. And then during school and just after law school, I worked at a firm in Lansdale. In 2000, when I was pregnant with my first son, I joined Elvin Souter's firm in Souderton and began my legal practice there in that community. Our firm specializes in estate planning and estate administration, elder law issues, real estate, transactional law, which would include corporate matters, mergers and acquisitions, employment, nonprofit work, those types of things. And our firm consists of 4 partners. I am one of 4 partners in the firm, Jeff Landis, Oliver Gingrich, Dorothy Weekhange, and myself. And we also have an associate, Brian Gorley, and a fabulous team of staff there as well.
Well, hello. I'm Elaine Brick. I am the owner of the Washington House in Sellersville Theater, as you all know. I studied geology in college as an undergraduate because my engineer father was tired of his children not pursuing sciences. And then I went to MIT for a doctorate in isotope geochemistry. In between, I took a year off, and I just loved cooking, and I wanted to try to get a job in a restaurant. Got a lot of no's, but I was finally hired by Stephen Pozis at The Frog, which was a great restaurant in the 1980s in Philadelphia. Learned a huge amount there. Spent the year and then went to MIT. But after a year at MIT, I realized that I needed a break, so I called The Frog up and said, could I come for the summer, help out? And true to form, no restaurant turns down an employee who left on good terms. So I got to go back for the summer, and by the end of the summer, I realized I loved the restaurant business more than I loved MIT. So that was the end of my career in isotope geochemistry. I then moved on to another sister restaurant where I was an assistant manager in the bakery, and I met my husband there, William Quigley, and that was kind of the rest is history from there on. We've owned the Washington House since 1985. We inherited 18 renters in the rooms above, and when one of them was asked to leave, he set the place on fire. From then on, we had a toasty upstairs, and we just focused on running the restaurant. And as we grew, we used the rooms for storage and then squatted for offices as well, as we needed more management. In 2001, Dave McClay, the owner of Cinema 1894, this building, said that he was ready to retire. And we were anxious to purchase the building to make sure that we had a complementary business next door to the Washington House. And also because this was originally the stable for the Washington House. We wanted the 2 buildings to be reunited. I always say that I make fun of people who've gone into the restaurant business with no experience. So what did we do? Went into the entertainment business with no experience. So now I make fun of myself. We had worked on both businesses for quite a while, and then around the year 2010, we realized that we really had to do justice to the rest of the Washington House building. And we started thinking about renovating the rooms upstairs for a hotel. Took quite a while, but in 2015 we started renovation and we opened in 2016. We are now at about 75% to 80% occupancy. During all this, we had 2 wonderful children who both are involved in our business now. And we have 75 full and part-time fabulous employees.
Hi, I'm Sally. And when I was a little girl, I did not dream of growing up to be a family business advisor or a business owner. What I really dreamed about was being a mother. And I had come from a long line of really good, nurturing, I'm going to feed you mothers. And so we started off being blessed, my husband and I, with 3 children. Very grateful for that. Now we have 3 their spouses that we love and 2 exceptional grandchildren. But 32 years ago, I grew up most of my time in this area, except for when I went to college in Virginia at Eastern Mennonite University. But 32 years ago, I got tapped on the shoulder by someone some of you may know, Henry Landis. And I didn't know him, but he happened to be my second cousin, but we didn't really know each other because we were 15 years apart. And he invited me to join him in his venture. So this venture was, he was actually a management consultant, but he discovered that all the families, all the people, the presidents he was working with were really from a family business, and the biggest challenges were usually family related. So it just so happened family business started to become a field at that time. So he invited me in, and we did a lot of training, education. We learned a lot through a forum that we created, much like this. For the past 32 years, I think we've had over 250 of these forums, bringing families in to really hear about their stories, their successes, and their failures. Families like Chick-fil-A was our largest. We had 400. Had folks like Wawa and Bush Beans and the Berge family, I think about in 2018. So that was one piece of the business, but the core of our business is really about helping families navigate the complexities of mixing family and business. It may sound easy, but it's anything but that. Very complex. In fact, I will say on the record that I don't believe most families should go in business with your family unless you really share a dream and unless you're really willing to be open and honest and vulnerable with each other. It's just naturally complex. So, I just kept stepping up in that business. And about 15 years ago, started leading the business, went through our ownership succession. And some of my team is here today. We have 6 advisors now and 3 support folks. So we have a great team. And maybe just the core of our work, really the core of our work is helping families really have the crucial conversations and really lean into discomfort, a lot of emotional discomfort. So I consider this, while I kind of fell into it, I think I was created to do this, and I feel like it's my marketplace ministry, and I feel like I've been called to that work. And it's just such sacred work to work with families and just watch them grow and develop and be a small part of that.
Turn. Well, I'm Joanna from Berge's. I am 4th generation, and I have 3 awesome sisters who support me, and I support them, and then we've got lots and lots of cousins, and so it started out with my grandpop putting us to work at a very early age, and there was nothing that he didn't see, daughter, granddaughter, grandson. You did it all, and so it was mowing the yards, washing the cars, stuffing statements, you name it, and so he had us, working at a very young age. Like I said, doing anything and everything. My dad started me in the dealership, the Chevy store, and that was, my first memories were really after washing cars. He would have me come up at night and just start, going through, invoices and just learning vehicles and seeing what the dealership's all about. And so that, that's pretty much where I got my Chevrolet start, and started going with him then, every day to work. And started in the service department then, helping people check in their cars. And I remember there'd be times where I was like, taking it personally that we didn't fix it correctly. And so that's basically where my career started, at the Chevy store. And so I then, I wrote down all this stuff to say. I'm sorry. I started after high school, and started helping out in the finance department. And then eventually my dad got me into sales, and I realized, this was something that I liked doing. It came easily, liked working with people, like finding solutions for people. And so just, was in sales for all these years. And, wow, I'm saying a lot.
And is the #1 salesperson.
No. Anyway, there was frustrating times, and so I started told my dad, I don't know if sales is where I want to be, and started going to Longwood Gardens for comprehensive wedding design, and started dabbling with flowers. And then my dad eventually came and was like, "You got to pick one or the other. Can't serve two masters. It's either cars or flowers." So, stuck with the cars, and I'm glad I did. And so. Yeah, I thought it was 2016 that you started helping the family show us where our weaknesses and where our strengths were. And so Sally showed us, where we really needed help, and that we were really, our communication needed a lot of work, and that really took us to the next level. So, yeah.
Thank you. And it's great to see how much each story is unique. And you all touched on this a little bit, but I want to also talk about what are the unique challenges and opportunities that you guys have encountered as a business owner, and how have those shaped your careers? So for this question, I think, Elaine, if we could start with you, and we'll continue down the line just to mix it up a little bit. So what are those unique challenges, and how have they shaped you?
Okay, well, 3 things come to mind for me. 3 things come to mind for me. The first is opening the theater, starting a business that that was definitely out of our comfort zone. We started doing a little bit of everything, kids shows, live music, comedy, first-run movies, community events, some other plays, and it was just too much. And we realized pretty quickly, when we were running out of money, that we needed mentors, which we found in the music industry and other venues in different areas, and we needed to really look at everything that we were doing and evaluate it. We narrowed it down to mostly live music, comedy, and community events. Second is that my husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 25 years ago. And when we first started out, he was the thinker, the entrepreneur, and I was the doer, the person who made the ideas work. But over time, he could do less and less in the business, and by 2012, he needed to retire. And I needed to become the entrepreneur and the operator as, as well. So that, that luckily I had the time to develop those skills, and I also depended a lot on my staff to help me with the things that maybe William did that I was not as masterful at. And the last thing is, of course, the pandemic. That was obviously a curse, but also a little bit of a blessing, because it really made you think of everything that you were doing and whether it was the right thing to do. The way we scheduled and paid staff, every line item on our P&L, was this worth doing? We couldn't just do things because that's the way we'd always done them. Took a lot of creative input from all of our staff to keep moving forward.
Sally?
So I think one of my challenges really came from internal. It was my own internal beliefs, my internal narrative. I might be older than all of you here, I don't know. But so I grew up where, I kind of thought that men were better. I mean, our pastor was a male. A lot of my favorite teachers were male. And so I had to work through some of that. I didn't have many female models of beyond, and I'd say parenthood is the highest calling. But I think I didn't have many models except for one of them that some of you might know, my Aunt Emma. Emma Landis, she founded the Dock Academy cafeteria dining hall, as well as Meadowland and Spruce Lake. She founded a hospital in Puerto Rico and started that up. But she had the kind of clarity and leadership. And so the other thing about my Aunt Emma is she always had a stewardship mindset. So she told me once that she would ask God every morning, help me to know who I can bless today. So that really meant a lot to me. So I think one of the things that I bring, it's a challenge, but I also bring it, especially to other women, I think, or is really to show up and be seen. And actually, if you can show that slide, like the second slide. So the one after that. So I think a lot of our work is really inviting folks into being seen and to being able to speak up. And so I love this. This is a quote from Brene Brown. I have to turn around. An invitation to really lean into the emotional discomfort, to really have a strong back, and to be able to have the courage to stand up and say what you think, even when you feel really alone. To have a soft front, to have the courage. That's where a lot of the emotional and the feeling is, even when we feel alone. And then to have a wild heart, to just be able to show up and to be able to be tender and tough, have grit and be graceful. And so I think, again, my challenge was really more internal. It was a much more male-dominated field. There's more women coming into my field now. But I bring that, and I just want to say that Joanna, I have just really enjoyed watching Joanna really come into her own and to speak up. And I often find that women sometimes discount ourselves. So that's one of my missions.
So the question was about struggles, and I'm thinking here going, I'm grateful. I didn't have a whole lot of women mentors in my life. I did have amazing men and still do have amazing men in my life. My grandfather and my dad, and my husband being, a sounding ear, but with my dad showing me the best way to get through struggles. Current struggles today would, Dad always joked that, girl, you've never been through the credit crunch. Girl, you've never been through the gas crisis. And now I can say, well, you've never been through COVID. And that's the honest truth. My grandfather would always whistle whenever he was in the vicinity of him even seeing other team members. He would always whistle. And I would always make fun of that. But I get it now, because he never wanted to see anyone not working, and that is a struggle today. with the new generations that are coming up, they have to constantly be connected to their phones. And you walk out in the shop, they're on their phones. You go up to the admin office, they're on their phones, and it's like, finding good technicians is another struggle. And just keeping your team happy, when there's a world out there showing them that, they should be so many other places and not where they're at. And just, listening, that can be a struggle, just having time for your team and listening to what's bothering them, so.
Well, there's lots of challenges and opportunities in business, all over the place. I will say that as women, I think there are some unique things that we run across that have to do with things you've talked about already. I grew up in Michigan, and neither of my parents graduated from college. And when I was growing up, when anybody asked me what I wanted to do, well, I loved paperwork. I loved writing. I loved, researching things. I would be a secretary. That's what I was going to be. And I had an aunt who was single in the business world, and she just kept encouraging me. What else might you want to do? And then my father got me involved in some of the nonprofit work that he was doing in the area related to the court system, and that's how I kind of got my foot in the door. But we as women come, and men do this as well, but we come on often a very meandering, wandering path to get where we are today. And I think it's all of those experiences that help to shape how we approach our roles, how we approach our jobs, and how we approach our partnerships. We don't operate in vacuums. All of us are in different forms of partnerships, but we all work with others. And anytime you're in a partnership, it has its own unique challenges. So I would say I am very blessed to be in partnership with persons who share perspectives, ideas. We have a common vision and goal for the firm and our role in the community, and we're able to work together with a great deal of respect. And I think that is key to value yourself and your own opinion and bring that to the role that you're in. I've also worked through partnership separations, which is challenging in its own right, and they're not always easy. But in business, we need to find those that share our vision and our goals and find ways to work with them, as all of us have experienced in our own businesses. So those are some of the unique challenges that I've encountered.
Thanks for sharing those. And I think that's actually a pretty good lead into our next question around, you were talking around the partnerships and the importance of those relationships. And we know that networking is an important part of business. Sometimes it happens in different ways, but regardless, it's a key aspect to business growth. So I'm going to start with you, Sally, and if you could share some of your thoughts on how have you built a strong professional network and collaborations, and have they contributed to your success? And if so, how?
Yeah, so two of my favorite sayings. One is, none of us is as smart as all of us. And the other is the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I just have a very collaborative nature, and that has served me well, at least in my role. So yeah, three major ways that I thought. One of the things is we have developed a advisory network, because family businesses need more than our guidance. They need a lot of guidance, right? They need people like Charlotte. They need legal, financial planning, all kinds of things. So formed a advisory network of firms that make our work stronger and make the family businesses stronger with whom we work. And then collaborating with advisors in our field. So early on, we joined a network. It's a worldwide network of family business professionals. And in fact, next week, Joy and I and two other advisors will be going to New York City for that conference. So we continue to collaborate with other advisors across the nation and across the world. And then another area is I've gotten training in family systems, which is very important in the work, and so brought in a family systems trained coach last year to work with our staff, and that has contributed. And I think that's 3.
Joanna?
And Sally, maybe you can hook me up with a speaking coach. I obviously need one. I would say my biggest support group, when I became a dealer, I had asked my dad what he thought of a 20 group because my rep from GM, said, "Hey, there's a group out there that's it's 20 women who run Chevrolet dealerships, and I think that would be something that would really help you." And my dad was against it because of what 20 groups can stand for, and he just didn't see value there. GM was like, "We will support you. We'll actually pay for your first year of doing this." And so I went into it going, well, we'll see. I've been, in a women's golf league that, just wasn't a lot of, wasn't a lot of fun. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try this 20 group. I can't say enough about it. We meet 3 times a year. And I realized that I'm not the only person who has a dad in the dealership and grew up in the dealership. There's 20 other women with me who this is their day in and day out. And so usually a couple times a week we are chatting together on issues that are happening every day. And there's nothing that they can't ask that I don't ask, that we don't answer. And so I don't know where I'd be without them, because they really they have been through it, and they've been there, and get the answers that you need. Another group is NADA, National Auto Dealers. They're out there, and they have a whole women's group also who help you find the right path, and so and get you answers also. So yeah.
Well, I'm not good at networking. It's not something I particularly enjoy. I'm by nature a fairly introvert person, so I'm probably in the wrong field. But it's something that's really important to do for business growth. You need to get out there. You need to meet other people. And so when I was a young lawyer, I spent a lot of years doing a lot of seminars at a lot of churches and for other nonprofit groups, just expanding my network of people that I knew. I also spent a lot of years working on nonprofit boards and for-profit boards, and I'm still involved in some. But those opportunities allow me to meet other persons that I might not have run into before, and have really broadened my professional network, which is really important to do, even when it's not something that comes naturally. So.
Oh, Charlotte, I'm with you. But agreed that it is very important to stay in touch with people, both other people that are in your field. During the pandemic, an organization called NIVA, National Independent Venue Association, sprung up out of nowhere. Other venue operators just realized we needed to help ourselves through this pandemic, because we were really hit the hardest of everything. There was nothing we could do to fill our seats. That organization has survived through the days, but during the pandemic, it was actually the catalyst for the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, which saved it saved the entertainment business in the United States, basically, and it definitely helped us. I mentioned that my husband was the entrepreneur and the thinker. He was also the face of the Washington House for years and years, and this was the hardest thing for me to take over. But luckily, people come to us because we're in the hospitality business, and so I just need to maintain the relationships, which I can do. So, the other thing that I haven't mentioned before is that we asked for support from our restaurant community when we opened the theater, and people, were very gracious to help us both monetarily and just with advice. And we started a membership and sponsorship program which lasts to this day. We also asked for help when we opened the hotel. So reach out, ask for help, talk to people, find out how you can help them, and you will reap the rewards of that.
A lot of good advice there. And I especially like that tidbit of reaching out and asking for help, because I know that that is something that I, along with many other people, struggle to do. So thanks for that. If we think about the importance of building networks, and then I heard a lot of you say in one of the first questions that you didn't have a lot of female role models. And so Joanna, I'm going to start this question with you. As successful owners, you serve as role models for the next generation. How do you actively engage with or inspire the next generation of business people to pursue their ambitions and create an impact in their community or their space?
By networking, which I love. I would much rather talk with everyone here one-on-one. It would be a lot better time.
There's lunch afterwards for that.
Can we go now? Yeah. I'm trying to make myself more available. Because Steve has asked me for years to do this, and I always way too busy. And so I finally said, it's time to start giving back to the community, giving to others. And so just like I said, making myself available to people and looking for the need, looking where there is need in the community, and just really trying to help out with that.
Charlotte?
Well, there are often people who will contact me or others in the firm because they have a son or a daughter who might have an interest in the legal field. And I love meeting with them because it's an opportunity to really help them understand what the practice of law is as opposed to what they see on TV, which is not the practice of law. And I think it's also important that I am where I am today because of people who did that for me, who mentored me, whether from the legal field or from other fields. I used to have a group of women that we would get together for lunch periodically, and they were from all different types of fields. But they had one thing in common in that at that point, all of us worked in a field where we were primarily working with men. And so it was helpful for us to share our insights and talk about what that was like for us. I do have very vivid memories of when I first started, and I would have some dear gentleman on the phone saying, "That's great, but I don't want to talk to the secretary. I'd like to talk to the attorney." And that happens less and less these days, thank goodness. But that was a part of my experience. And so I want to help other young women and men understand what the practice of law is so that they get a good experience and good exposure to that. So that's what we do.
This is actually the most favorite part of my job. And where I feel like I really make a difference. In the restaurant business, a lot of people that we hire, this is their first job. So we're teaching them life lessons about how to behave in a work environment. I recently read an article titled "Everything I Needed to Know I Learned as a Server." You know, and then the writer goes on to say, you know, I learned how to relate to just about anybody, how to multitask, how to be organized, how to be self-motivated. So that's, I just love having the ability to help people, you know, learn how to be a good person in the workplace. I have an employee who worked for us 25 years ago, and she's now a professor at the University of Florida, and she just posted on Facebook last week that the 8 years that she spent working at the Washington House, she learned more than her college or undergraduate degree. So, other thing is, you know, we give our talented staff room to grow and take other positions and learn where they fit in to, you know, and where they're going to do their best work. I have Dawn Slade, our general manager here at the hotel, started as a sous chef in the kitchen at the Washington House. Our marketing director started as an event manager here. So she started as her internship at college, and 17 years later, she's our marketing director, and she happens to have met and married our technical director, who also started here outside of college. So it's just, that's just a wonderful thing to do, to be able to help other people grow. And I think it has something to do with, like, motherhood, wanting to nurture people.
Well, I am very committed to paying it forward, because I felt like I've had so much opportunities before me. I'm standing on so many other people's shoulders. And I have actually the luxury, the privilege of working with a lot of next generation folks, because we work with multi-generational families. So it's one of the joys to work with younger generations and to really listen to them and help them identify what makes their hearts sing. And sometimes that includes freeing the prisoners, is what I call it, helping them leave the business with grace. And sometimes it's helping them realize that, you know, all the strength and the beauty and the competencies they have, and to rise up and to lead. So I feel so blessed to do that. Our mission is helping business families flourish as individuals, as families, and as enterprises. And I really get off on the helping people, the individuals finding their own voice and becoming emotionally mature, as well as all the other fun things like governance. And then I think, one of the other things we do is we create mentoring programs for families. So what's really unique about that is we get to have the opportunity to mentor the younger generation, but then we also have access to the older generation, so we can speak into the system. And it just, you can tell I'm really passionate about that. Great question.
Yeah, I can tell there's a lot of passion around that in general. So a little plug to everybody out there to connect with these women, because they certainly seem to be inspired by inspiring the next generation. But I have to think that with all of these things that you've talked about a lot of commitments and the challenges that you faced and everything else. I have to think that balancing business and personal life can be a challenge as well. So how do you go about finding work-life balance? How do you manage the demands of running a business, some pretty demanding businesses, while also taking care of yourself and your family and your personal connections? And we'll go ahead, Charlotte, if I could start with you on this question.
Well, work-life balance is not an easy goal to meet. In my case, I do have a spouse who's extremely supportive and will take care of things at home if I'm not able to be where and when I need to be somewhere. But I also have experienced firsthand the way that partners and staff and my business community has worked to really support me. My hair looks a little different than it did in the picture. I've spent the last year going through breast cancer treatment, and I am on the other side of that. But it brings to light, yes, it brings to light that work-life balance. I had no work-life balance this last year. I was not able to be at work every day. I was not able to keep things running in the same way that I might have otherwise needed to. And I found that just letting people know what was going on, they were very gracious and very understanding. Clients, often would say, that's fine. We can push something out till next week because this is a chemo week and I'm not going to be able to be there. Or staff would just pick it up and keep things moving the way that it needed to be moving. The other attorneys in the office would fill gaps that I had. I think that we need to understand that and give ourselves permission that we are not always going to be running at 100%. And part of work-life balance is knowing when are other people helping to pick us up and when do we need to help and pick other people up. It also, sometimes we tend to be workaholics and we think that everything needs to be done right now, and that's not a realistic goal. I do have kids who will continue to say that for some years during their life, they felt like I was out at a meeting every night. I can tell you that was not the case, but that was the perception. And so it is a struggle that all of us deal with. And I think that we need to be better at understanding what our limitations are and know that if we are stretched too thin, we are not doing any good for anybody.
For me, I think the main issue here is trust. You need to trust other people to help you when necessary. Personally, I try to hire people who understand the goal of our business, mentor them, and then show them that I trust them and let them make the decisions. I don't have to make them all. So it's, but people need to know that you trust them and that you're going to have their back if things don't go the way they're supposed to. That's the only way. You have to let go a little bit.
Well, having a work-life balance was one of the reasons that I didn't want to have a career, actually. I know I'm an all-in type person. I would call myself a recovering perfectionist. So when I do something, it's all the way. So I will say that I really appreciated the flexibility that was offered to me as I was in the business under Henry. I was able to make almost all of our children's games, even when they were back and forth to EMU for 4 years. And music programs, because that was very important to me. I said, this has to be first. That was another reason I was a little reluctant to become an owner, because I knew that the buck would stop with me. But I also feel this is another calling for me. So for me, I really had to prioritize and put it in the calendar. Thank you, Anna, who helps me do this. I pre-calendar. I have to pre-calendar, one-to-ones with my kids, which I love to do, vacations, quarterly getaways with my husband. I was blessed to have a husband who was a teacher, so he was very supportive when I was really engaged in my work. But I really need to prioritize my own fitness. So I have a program that I really try to stick to, and yeah, it is. We all deal with this, whether we own a business or not.
Yeah, what all three of them said. I'm blessed that I have an amazing husband who has, over these years, has been the dad and the mom. He came from a family business, and so he understood about family businesses. I'm also blessed with an amazing family who has always been there and still is for our girls and the entire family. So with that being said, I was at work a lot during my sales career. And that helped me to be compassionate and understanding with the team when they do need time off. When I was in sales, we got 0 paid vacation. It was long hours, and so that's something that was, as soon as my sister, started running the GMC dealership and I started running the Chevy dealership, we said something's got to change where we got to make it so that people can go on vacation and actually breathe and not be on the phone the entire time trying to work. They should actually, be away recharging. And so that's something that I'm grateful that we put in place, where people get a paid vacation now in sales. And one thing with COVID that, there was a lot of bad, but if you look at the good, there were some good things. And the number one good thing was that it shortened our hours. We used to have crazy sales hours, and we close at 7 o'clock now, which 7 is 7:38. Before we were at 9, which was 9, 10, 11. There are people who do want to buy cars at 11 o'clock at night. So yeah, I'm getting there. Having people in place who you do trust, and that that they care about the business almost as much as you do, really helps. And so you just strive to have those kind of people in place, and then it does allow you to go out and network. So
That's great. And I do have one more question, and then I think we're going to have time to open it up for a few questions. But the last question that I have is about the changing landscape. And forever, change has been a constant in business and in life, really. But recent times have brought even more changes and more rapid changes. You all have somehow touched on the COVID pandemic and how that has affected your businesses. Elaine, I think this might be a good one for you to start answering the question. And the question is really, how have you adapted your business strategies to stay resilient, relevant, especially considering the recent shifts in the global economy, technology, and other things?
Okay, well, this is like the opposite of the last question about balancing work-life balance, because, basically constant vigilance and reinvestment in time and money in your company. The things have definitely escalated since the pandemic. I think I started to say earlier that because of it, we needed to kind of look at everything we were doing and ask why. And if we couldn't justify it, then it probably needed to change. So similarly, we have shortened our hours as well. We used to stay open until 11 or 12 at the restaurant, and there were a whole lot of our staff standing around waiting for somebody to order French fries and a beer. So most of our business was, done by 8 or 9 o'clock. So now we close at 8 on weekdays and 9 on weekends. And with the the staff hours that we cut, we are able to pay our staff more. Really important. This was a real comeuppance for the hospitality industry, which traditionally paid its staff really poorly. And we have, you need to change. You need to make things work. I don't believe in complaining about how things should change or why they need to change. They need to change, you need to do it. A restaurant guru, Bill Maines, sends out a weekly email about, helping restaurateurs. And what he says is, don't complain, do the work. And
Yeah, before COVID, we had remote meetings every once in a while, but that was a big shift for us to shift to Zoom meetings, and we took our forums that we did, we did webinars. I have found, actually much to my surprise, that I didn't think it would be as effective as it has been to continue with the Zoom meetings. We don't do that when we first meet with the family, for sure. It's so important to have those face-to-face connections. But Zoom has actually some positive things. We find that sometimes people can say things on a Zoom call or a Teams call that they can't say in person. Now, sometimes there's a little cleanup to do afterward, but that's been a gift. It's also broadened our geography. We've been traveling. Most of our clients are within 2 hours, but it has opened it up for some other. We work now in Florida and Ohio and a few others that are a good values fit for us. I would say the other thing I've been aware of is the mental health status of our society is not doing so great. So just really listening and being aware, like for my team, I try to be flexible. You know, we all need to be able to have time off or have flexibility. And I think the last thing, the shift, sometimes folks see our services as an expense rather than an investment. So with the economy having some struggles, you know, they might be willing to do a capital campaign, but not thinking about investing into the future planning, the strategic planning for their family and their business and governance. And I think it's really short-sighted. So I'm kind of a kick on that.
I'm getting caught up in what you're saying, and I'm like, what was the question? Yeah. And it's more than I'll put a plug in for Sally here. She has helped make our family what it is today. I could go on and on and on, but so two struggles that we have. I mean, a lot more than two, but I'll pick two, is marketing and how to reach people like yourself. So that's something that it's ever changing and we're always working on because you're no longer reading the paper. So that's something that like we're always looking for the next best way to captivate, to get your attention and to get you into the dealerships and in for service and that kind of thing. So that's something that we work a lot on. And that's, you know, that's the industry's changing on. And then also electric vehicles, it's huge. The training that's needed for that, the tools that are needed for that, the infrastructure that's needed for that. So it's, you know, constantly changing, and that's something that it's a real task to keep up on.
Well, staying ahead of an ever-changing business landscape is always challenging, and I would say our office is probably not at the forefront of changes and never will be. But part of that is because we really do value that face-to-face contact, and that's very important, and the personal touch is very important for much of what we do. But we have been able to provide for more options and opportunities. So there might be a family member that we're meeting with a child who lives, you know, in another state. Well, you know, with video conference calls, we can now loop them in a different way than what we used to be. I will have to say that the biggest change in my practice that I have embraced wholeheartedly is the fact that I do not have to go down to the courthouse in Norristown or Doylestown to probate a will anymore. It is all done by way of a video conference call, and I can have the clients right there in my office. So some of those types of changes to the process and the system and the way we do our work have accelerated because of COVID. So there were already, you know, if you pleaded really hard and had a very special exception, maybe you could do something different before. Well, the courts had to change because they were shut down otherwise. So it really forced some of those things to be implemented much sooner than they would have otherwise been. But while we have more options in terms of that, we still value and see the importance of that face-to-face connection. And while electronic signatures are great in some instances, if I am doing a deed, I want that original signature on that, a wet signature as they call it, or a will, or, you know, some of these types of things, that's not changing. I think it just provides for more opportunities for us to help our clients in a wider scope of options than what we had before.
Fantastic, and thank you all. I think we have a few moments for some questions. So could we get the house lights up so that we can see? I saw somebody raise a hand. Ken.
I can read.
That was awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I have a question, follow-up question for Elena and for Charlotte. Both of you mentioned a passion for reaching the youth and for mentoring the younger people that are coming to you. How can we as a chamber and as a group of business owners, how can we do a better job reaching them to let them know that we're here?
If you don't mind, I'm just going to repeat the question for the recording so that we have access to it. So the question was, you mentioned about having a passion for mentoring youth. Question was, how can we as a chamber do a better job of doing that and mentoring the youth in our region? So Elaine, do you want to start?
So I think the chamber, we can connect with the high schools, the technical schools, the local colleges, community colleges around us. We've got quite a few that are really looking for mentoring and jobs for their students. I know that, I'm involved with the Upper Bucks Technical School in their food service department. And I try to keep in touch with the culinary programs at both Montco and our and Bucks County Community College as well.
In my field, it's actually a little challenging because while I love to meet with young people who have an interest in the legal field and talk to them about what my day is like, I can't necessarily have a high school student come in and, intern with me or shadow me because of the confidential nature of my work. So it does make it really challenging, but we do look for ways to connect with students, and often it happens by way of word of mouth. Call so-and-so because, we have a kid who might have an interest in that field. That's how it happens often. But it does create some challenges just in terms of the type of work that we do and some things that we can't have them just shadow us in a way that other fields might be able to.
Another question?
I'm curious, as female business owners and running your company, you guys are in a unique position that a lot of moms may not have. Specifically, what advice do you give to your daughters as they grow up to try to be able to follow in your footsteps?
So the question was, as female business owners, what advice do you give to your daughters as they grow up?
My kids don't want anything to do with the law. I mean, that's the reality of it. I think that being in a partnership is a little bit different than being a sole proprietor, because I've got a team of people that's running the business, so it doesn't all fall on my shoulders. But I would, my daughter is a junior, and she's having this conversation about what does she want to do, and she has no idea. And what I try to tell her is she needs to figure out what her passion is. Because we've all gone on these paths. You were pretty direct, Joanna. I mean, you maybe tried a detour, but it didn't work. But you have to keep opening doors to figure out what it is that gives you life, what it is that you're passionate about. And it may not be the first thing that you try, and that's okay.
Yeah, I have two daughters, and what I give not my own daughters as well as other women or young women is to just what Charlotte said, to really find what makes their heart sing. And so assessments. I've had our daughters, just like what we do with what we recommend to the family businesses that we work with, to go through just a lot of series of assessments as well as other experiences. We have a career development coach on staff, so there's all kinds of assessments out. I think I've taken every assessment in the book. But it changes. I mean, we change as we get older. Our interests change, our strengths change. So, and as far as college, I said, don't worry about what you're gonna get paid. Just take that off the table. Just do what makes your heart sing and where you feel called as well.
Thank God for assessments, because Glenda was in sales, I think, 18 years, and then she did an assessment one day, and we found out sales is not her gift, even though she is amazing, was amazing in sales. She's now the corporate day maker, and we're so grateful for her. She keeps everyone smiling. She does celebrations for when people, hit goals, and. But yeah, I have 2 girls. One wants nothing to do with car sales, and the other one has embraced it. I never asked either of them to, follow in my footsteps. The older one has a passion for cars, loves people, she went down the career path of everything I guess I am living through her a little bit, because I did want to move away to another dealership out west and see how other people do it and do it right, and that's something that she had gone to Liberty University and for automotive management, and graduated with that, and then worked for the Hendricks Group down in North Carolina for 3.5 years, and she's now back. During that time, my husband was very upset with me and told me, we'll never get her back, but she's back, and life could not be better. Life could not be better. She brought with her an amazing man who does finance at our Cadillac store, and then the other one saw the hours that I put in, and just knew that was something she was not going to do, and she was. She wants, to be the best mom that she can be, and I think that's awesome. And I support her with that. And so, she's into baking and helping Glenda at the corporate office, and so just being there, supporting them, and letting them know you love them no matter what.
My daughter actually gives me advice, so. She started working in our restaurant when she was 12, and worked for us for a very long time, and then went off on her own, realized that she had other interests, and now she's a great HR management consultant, and she she advises us. So I agree with everything that was said. It's important to, give them whatever experiences you can and let them figure out what makes them happy.
Another question?
My question's for Joanna.
Okay.
I know. So one of the side gigs I like to do is take women car shopping, because it can be very intimidating for women to buy a car, because we tend to be talked down, or you don't know this or you don't know that, yada yada yada. So you're an owner, of a dealership. Why do you think? How does your dealership make the experience different from women because a woman owns it?
How does your dealership make the car shopping and buying experience different for women?
Yeah. So, great question, and I made sure that I do have women available for women at each store, in sales, also in service. I made sure that we have service advisors, so if you're bringing your car in for service, you can deal with a woman, and then, like I said, also in sales. Growing up, I saw in sales, there would often be men who would come in and be like, yeah, can I have someone who knows something about vehicles, and they absolutely would not deal with me, even though I had scored higher on all of the acknowledgement tests than any of them had, and always, had that stuff completed, because when you are a woman in what's generally dominated as a man's world, you have to know more, and you have to have every answer. Unlike today. And I will say, now that there's lights, I can read my notes. I can read everything. I could not see one thing I had on here, so I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's I do make sure that women are available for women at all times.
And I think there's another question there.
Yes, I consider you all trailblazers in your specific industries, and being the change that you want to see in them, what do you see as your legacy for the women that come into your firm or into your industry after you?
Great question. What do you see as your legacy in your company? Who wants to start with that small question?
Well, I stand on others' shoulders. So our firm was founded by Elvin Souter, and I first got to know him when I was doing a research project in law school looking at Mennonites and lawsuits and some of the instances of that in this community over the years. So I stand on other people's shoulders. I have many female attorneys, and female attorneys are becoming more and more prominent these days. So it is not a situation where they're few and far between. It really is a question of how do we continue that legacy and continue to make the legal field somewhere where women can have a business, have a career, and also have a home life. I think that's the one area in the legal field that it's still challenging for women to have that work-life balance. I think our firm is fairly unique in that it allows for that in a fabulous way. But I think there are still many women who practice law that struggle with that and the demands of the job.
We have a lot of women in management positions in our company, both at the Sellersville Theater and at the Washington House. And a lot of them have children who are also working at the Washington House or Sellersville Theater. So their children are watching their mothers and me, be managers and leaders. And so it's on a small scale, but that's what we do. And I do feel that's part of our legacy.
So I've always been focused on the founder, Henry's legacy. So that's been very important to me because I always say I stand on his shoulders and we stand, on those who came before me. And my work is a lot around helping families extend or pass forward their legacy, which is their values, and how can you do that? But I think the legacy that I would like going forward for the firm is we're currently working on a training program. It's really hard. Our work is kind of messy. It's like all over the place in some ways. So I think working on that training program and really bringing in women and men who can continue this work forward, because there's not many firms like ours, actually there's only one or two, that do the three things that we do. We do the consulting, that's our core, we do peer groups, and we do educational forums. So really focusing on succession planning right now and getting really excited about that and some of the opportunities I see.
Yeah, and I would say investing in the future and investing in yourself. When you are in sales, like I mentioned before, you're straight commission. And so, my dad would ask me to go to a dealer meeting with him, and I'd be like, well, what are you going to how much are you going to compensate me for that? And he'd be like, oh, I can't. Like, it's not generating any income. It's, you got to just go and learn. And I'd be like, well, why do I want to do that? It was never really explained to me, like, why I want to invest in myself. And so now I put a huge emphasis, because like how, now I can see that, yeah. So back, we had a M&O, mandatory not optional retirement at 70. So when my dad turned 70, it was basically, okay, I had been in sales for 26 years. And literally, he turned 70, was like, okay, here you go. It's all yours, make it work. And I'd be like, well, what did you do? Like, well, what do you do every day? I don't know. I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then I make sure that's okay. And then I walk that through that department. And so, he, Renita can testify to this. Like, he really was like, you got this. Grace and mercy, but he was just like, you've got this. Didn't want to handle even a complaint. He was like, you've got this, and so I was not ready for it. And I'm learning every day what I don't know. And so just what I've been working on with the managers, and then just asking other dealers, like, what is your day-to-day? What do you see as your responsibilities? Putting that in on paper, putting in job descriptions for GMs, for sales managers, for a dealer, and then also putting in process and procedures, because that was never in place. So, and I see a high value in that. And so, so that's the biggest thing is I didn't have an owner's manual, and I'm trying to get an owner's manual put in place so that people know, more about what they're supposed to do when they are put into that position.
Another question?
Yeah, this question is probably for Joanna. And I hope it doesn't put you on the spot. I assume you've been following the UAW and what's going on in the world of automobiles.
It's my life.
I'm sure. I heard the chairman of the board, Bill Ford, do a 10-minute plea to the UAW to settle. Can you talk about your perspective? What's going on in your world?
Asking Joanna about her perspective on the UAW's movement.
I got to be really careful there, because a lot of this is opinion. Okay, it goes way deeper, and it's way past our ability to even. It's political. That's when you at the end of the day, that's what it is. Yeah, I could say a lot more, but I want to incriminate myself. But we knew it was coming, so we did stock up as much as we possibly humanly could. And just this morning, I was talking with, we have our Tuesday morning fixed ops meetings, and I have my service manager saying, I have to drive 2 hours to get O-rings for this, and then I have my body shop manager saying, I can't get a Blazer hood for a 2019, and it's so you do your best, you know it's coming. We really pray that our economy can't afford this. So I am, because it affects a lot of people, things you don't even think of. So yeah, praying it ends quickly, and yeah.
Seems like a topic for a future discussion around navigating other challenges, right? There's a lot of challenge there in that industry. Yeah. What other questions do we have? Okay. If there's none, let's give these women a round of applause, please. They did a wonderful job today. I have to say, I continue to be impressed by the caliber of people and business leaders in this region, and I think these 4 women are just really excellent examples of that. So thank you for sharing your stories with us today. I do want to take a few moments to let you guys know about some other things that are coming up through the chamber. On October 24th, we do have the Tastings of Indian Valley, which is a culinary event that highlights local restaurants, breweries, and wineries, showcasing their favorite dishes. That's sponsored by Harleysville Bank, and a portion of all the proceeds will go to the North Monco Technical Center. And then on November 8th, there is...
Mentioned that was scheduled on my anniversary.
I have heard that before,
Just
Charlotte. Yes.
throwing that out there.
It is always
Come
scheduled.
celebrate my anniversary.
I have been to that event, and it is a wonderful celebration. Sorry that it's on your anniversary. There is also an event, Connect for a Cause, which is another series that the Chamber does, partnering with nonprofit organizations. So this one is co-sponsored by the Chamber and the Salvation Army's foster care and adoption program. It's on November 8th, and it's a mixer followed by a free family movie night at Broad Theater in Souderton. So if you have time, check that out. It's a great event as well. And then maybe not quite as fun, but very informational, is the 2023 tax update, which is sponsored by Univest, and that's on November 30th at the Franconia Heritage Restaurant at 7:30 a.m. So keep an eye on the website for the Indian Valley Chamber and on LinkedIn and Facebook, where the Chamber is most active, to learn about some of these upcoming events. There's a lot of great things happening. For those of you who are joining us for lunch at the Washington House, you can make your way down there after this. And let's give another round of applause for our panelists today, please. Thank you very much, everyone.